The world of Middle-earth, though meticulously detailed by Tolkien, still holds many secrets. For example, why didn't they fly to Mordor on eagles? Did Aragorn wear pants? Who exactly is Tom Bombadil? And what exactly happened to the orcs after they died? And so on. One of the most mysterious and tragic enigmas in The Lord of the Rings is the fate of the Entwives, the female counterparts of the Ents. A race of sentient trees and plants that had inhabited the world of Arda since the creation of nature and animals. They were mighty and wise beings who took care of the vast forests of Middle-earth. However, all the Ents and Huorns depicted in the films and featured in the books were exclusively male, including their leader, Treebeard. The Entwives had vanished long ago, although relative to the long lifespans of the Ents, not that long ago. The male Ents searched for their wives for a long time without success, and by the time of the events in The Lord of the Rings, they had still not found them. What were the Entwives like? Why did they disappear? And where did they go? Let's discuss all of this in this article. Who were the Entwives and what were they like? The Entwives differed significantly from their husbands in appearance. While the male Ents were massive, tall, and powerful beings, their female counterparts appeared more graceful and flexible. The males resembled large trees, oaks, elms, and others. The females, however, possessed features of less imposing plants, fruit trees, shrubs, grasses, flowers, and so on. Treebeard noted that the hair of the Entwives resembled the color of corn, and their rosy cheeks were like ripe apples. Accordingly, the Entwives primarily tended to smaller plants and agricultural crops. This fact contributed to their greater openness toward other races compared to their husbands. While the male Ents lived in seclusion within their forests and were wary of outsiders, guarding the woods from external influence, the Entwives did not shy away from contact with humans. They shared their knowledge, teaching people how to grow and care for crops such as fruits, vegetables, and grains. Under what circumstances did the Entwives disappear? Likely due to their significant differences with their husbands, the Entwives began to drift away from them as early as the First or Second Age. The Entwives then left Fangorn and settled in another area along the eastern bank of the Anduin River. This region was more suited to their talents, and there they created beautiful gardens and fields. They also began teaching the nearby humans about agriculture, providing them with abundance and prosperity. During this period, though husbands and wives lived separately, they visited each other and maintained contact. Everything changed at the end of the Second Age, when Sauron waged another war against the Dúnedain and the Elves, the War of the Last Alliance. As the Dark Lord began to suffer defeats, humans and elves moved ever closer to Mordor. To the north of Mordor lay the fertile lands inhabited by the Entwives. In an effort to protect Mordor, Sauron implemented a scorched earth strategy, burning the beautiful gardens and fields of the Entwives so that the advancing enemy could not use the land's resources. One can imagine what a tragedy this must have been for beings who had devoted their long lives to the care of plants. Sauron's actions ultimately did not help him win the war, but the land of the Entwives was completely destroyed. Nothing could grow there anymore, and it became known as the Brownlands. The Entwives vanished after the destruction of their work, to the great sorrow of their loving husbands. But where did they go? Let's try to find out. The Ents themselves had no definite answer to this question, nor is there one in Tolkien's books. However, based on indirect evidence and some of Tolkien's letters, a few plausible theories can be derived about what happened to the Entwives, who survived the destruction of their lands. A piece of indirect evidence supporting this theory is the fact that the hobbits of the Shire became masters of agriculture, growing various types of grains, vegetables, grapes, and other crops. Their land was far from conflicts, and the climate was ideal for the Entwives. When the hobbits told Treebeard about the Shire, he noted that the Entwives would have liked their land, and even asked the hobbits to let him know if they ever came across them. Moreover, Sam remembered that a relative of his had encountered a walking tree in the forests near the Shire, which could theoretically have been an Entwife. In my opinion, this is the kindest and most pleasant theory, one that you want to believe, but there are other possibilities. Another theory suggests that the Entwives fled from the fire, not to the west through the war-torn lands and territories inhabited by orcs and dwarves, but to the east, a wilder and more desolate region where they might have found a secluded place to restore at least part of their gardens. However, it is unknown how they would have been received by the Easterlings, who inhabited the endless deserts and steppes. There is a chance that a warm welcome was not to be expected for the Entwives. Sauron was known as a rather calculating and practical ruler, and the Entwives could have been incredibly useful to him. The Dark Lord had vast armies that needed to be fed. Much of Mordor was unsuitable for farming and growing food. The lands of the south and east, under Sauron's control, were also much less fertile than the western territories. Therefore, it would have been logical for Sauron to enslave the Entwives and force them to work for him, helping the Haradrim and Easterlings develop agriculture to feed the countless hordes of the Dark Lord. In this case, the Entwives would have faced a grim fate. For Sauron, they would have been nothing more than temporary tools to achieve his goals, as he needed to conquer the West. Once that happened, the Entwives would no longer be of use to him, and he would have simply exploited them to the maximum before leaving them to die. It is known that some Ents who live too long gradually slow down and become so similar to the trees they care for that they turn into trees themselves, losing the ability to move and rooting themselves deep in the ground. These creatures are known as Huorns, the final stage of an Ent becoming a tree. For a while, Huorns may still retain some consciousness, but they lose the ability to speak. If this happened to the male Ents, the same could theoretically have happened to the Entwives. After losing their beloved gardens and lands, they might have turned into the plants they cared for, shrubs, small trees, and grasses. Since they were less durable than oaks and elms, soon there would have been no trace left of the Entwives. And the saddest version, in my opinion, is that all the Entwives simply perished during the destruction of their gardens by Sauron's fire. They did not possess the strength and fury of their husbands, which allowed the Ents to defend Fangorn and overthrow Saruman. The Entwives were weaker and more peace-loving, and when attacked they could do only one thing: perish in the flames ignited by Sauron's savage orcs. Their husbands, however, likely could not accept this fact, which is why they continued searching for their wives, unable to reconcile with the reality that they were gone. That's all for now. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell icon. Your support is the best reward for me. Thank you for watching. See you soon. Goodbye.